For the board, as an expert, something to testimony.
You guys testified that you have gravel and sand piled up 25 feet high, and there was some tanks that was referenced for material.
Yes.
What, obviously I'm not concerned about sand or gravel or stone. The liquid that are in the tanks, can you describe what that was?
Yeah, it's asphalt cement.
And are these tanks, are they in some type of double wall containment or something?
No, they're above ground single tanks. The asphalt, they're not required to be contained. From what I understand, the engineer will elaborate a little bit more on that. If asphalt were ever to leak out of the tank, once it hits the air temperature, because they are heating tanks, once it hits the air temperature, it completely freezes to some extent. And it doesn't. Yes, it solidifies. It doesn't run. Yes.
Is there any other liquids that's used for the manufacturing process?
No.
Are you mixing that product on site or off-site?
No, it's not being mixed on site at all. No, it's just being stored on site.
It's stored on site. So if it was to leak out, it would solidify on the ground and not run off into the snow.
That's correct.
Any further questions?
Yeah, just a second. All the materials delivered on this job site will be washed, am I correct?
Majority of them, yes.
Question on the RAP, the recycled asphalt that you're going to be recycling. Will that be crushed on site?
Yes, it will.
Will there be any dust control for that?
Yes, it will.
So what type of dust control would you
The
have?
crusher has water on it.
Okay.
Water tank, and it would spray as it crushes to keep the dust in.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, no further questions. Board, I'll open it up to the public. Again, please be specific to the point of what the testimony was.
Jonathan E. Drill on behalf of the Township of Greenwich. Can you describe to the board the exact truck route from Strikers Road to Interstate 78?
Yes. We would come, I don't know the exact directions offhand, however, we would head out to 519 from our facility.
So start at your facility, you're going to make a what-hand turn?
Right-hand turn.
Right on the Strikers.
Head out to 519. Right-hand turn on 519. To the intersection of 519 and Route 22. Left-hand turn.
Left onto 22.
Left onto 22 to Interstate 78. Depending on the job, east or west, random.
Okay. And now describe the route, the most likely route for trucks coming to the facility. Assume first that they're coming from 78.
It would be reversed, what I said, it would exit off of 78, I believe it's exit 4, 3, I think it's 3. Onto Route 22, westbound, to Strikers Road, to 519, right-hand turn, 519, left-hand turn, Strikers Road, left-hand turn into our facility.
Okay, are there any circumstances where some other route than what you just described would be used, either the trucks getting to the facility or trucks leaving the facility with product?
Yes.
Okay, can you describe those circumstances? Take them one at a time and describe the route.
The first one, I mean, the plant is going to supply a specific project. So if the project were to be paving a driveway, someone would pick the material up and take it to the driveway that would be located in a residential area. If we had a small job in Phillipsburg, we would take probably Route 57 to Phillipsburg. Hey.
All the routes that you would take, would they be appropriately weight limited?
Yes.
Where do you currently get the asphalt for, where does Intercounty currently get its asphalt from? This plant obviously is right now not in existence.
We get our asphalt from several plants.
Do you own any of the plants currently that you get the asphalt from?
In New Jersey, no.
So right now, if you're doing a paving job in New Jersey, you're buying it from someone else.
Yes, we are.
Once you open this plant, I assume you're going to try at least get all your asphalt from this plant for jobs in New Jersey?
No, not at all. We figured we were going to be about 50% of the plant's supply.
Okay, I'm going to list a couple local roads in the township of Greenwich, and in the end, I'm going to ask you if you would agree to propose a condition to this board that if the board was inclined to grant the application, that you would agree to a condition that your trucks wouldn't use these routes unless, again, someone on one of these routes wants to drive it paved.
Understood?
Route 173.
I understood the road, yes.
So you agree, you won't use 173?
No, we won't use 173. I think there's a weight limit on 173, isn't
There is. Main Street.
there? No.
No means you won't use it.
No, we will not use it.
Greenwood Street.
No, we will not use it.
Washington Street.
No, we will not use it.
Dumont Road.
Will not use it.
Okay, you'll agree to propose a condition that if the board is inclined to grant the application, you're going to prohibit you from using those streets.
Yes.
Okay, getting back to your earlier testimony, you described the baghouse filtering dust off the aggregate, correct?
Yes.
Okay. How does the aggregate get from the bins into the baghouse?
The aggregate never goes into the baghouse. The aggregate goes into the drum, the mixing drum.
Put it this way, where is the dust pulled off the aggregate and directed to the baghouse?
It's pulled from the baghouse, pulls the dust through the drum into the baghouse. It has a vacuum on it that sucks the dust out of the drum. So when the stone goes into the drum, it is sucking the air out.
How does the stone get from the bins into the drum? That's, I
Yeah, it comes in on the cold feeds over here. There's different boxes that you put the specific. These are we call them cold feed bins. Okay, and each bin is going to be for a specific product. Okay, it's going to come out. It's going to get loaded into these bins
How does it get from the bin?
from the pile bin
Yeah.
by a loading machine, front end loading machine.
Okay. When the front end loader digs into the pile of aggregate and carries it over, there's some dust coming off the aggregate, correct?
Yes, mine.
What do you do to limit that dust from getting into the atmosphere?
The aggregate itself is going to come in washed, so that the dust is going to be minimal. Also, the area has a
Hold on a
huge.
minute. If the aggregate's coming in washed, so it's not going to have any
It
dust.
will have minimal dust.
Okay, so we'll have some dust.
Yes.
Okay, so, but are you going to do anything from when the front end loader scoops up a bunch of aggregate and dumps it into the bin? Do you do anything to limit that minimal dust or not?
No,
Is there anything you could do, like watering it down?
no.
Okay, and why is that?
But, I mean, it's not practical to put a sprinkler for the dust that's going to stay on the site for the material coming off the loader.
Okay, and how do you know that the dust off the aggregate is going to stay on the site and on a windy day not be blown off the site?
Oh, I'm certain it is, and to protect against that, we have a huge landscape buffer around the site, and the stone dust is very heavy, so it's not going to blow like dust from fuel.
Okay, so the blowing dust is going to be buffered or screened from going off the site because
Yes.
it's going to collect on the landscape.
Yes.
What are you going to do to get it off the landscape so the landscaping doesn't die?
Well, I think the dust you're talking about, you know, you're not getting the quantity of dust. The dust is minimal. It's not going to collect on the landscape. And it's not going to leave the property.
You said that the majority of material coming on the site is going to come unwashed, correct?
Majority.
Can you define what percentage of the material?
It depends on the asphalt has a specific recipe for a specific project. So I couldn't accurately give you that.
Is all aggregate going to come washed or is some aggregate going to come not washed?
Some will come not washed.
What sort of aggregate comes not washed?
Sand.
Could you guys not give me answers, please? He's got to answer himself. I'm talking to the record, I'm talking to the applicant's attorneys.
We didn't say anything.
Yes, you did.
I didn't say something, no, John, I didn't say anything.
So who said sand?
I talked to myself, I'm sorry.
You talk to yourself. Please keep it to yourself, I'm sorry, Mr. Burns.
I didn't answer.
Other than sand, what other aggregate will come on unwashed?
Other than sand, some stone could potentially come unwashed.
Can you explain what circumstances would some of the stone aggregate come onto the site unwashed?
If we were going to supply a mix that needed a higher dust content, you wanted more dust on the aggregate, you would get material that was unwashed.
Okay, is that the only circumstance that unwashed aggregate would come on, is if you wanted it unwashed?
Yeah, I believe so, yes.
Okay, and why would you want unwashed, why would you want dustier aggregate? What type of mix would require that?
Well, certainly, depending on the mix. I mean, I'm not familiar with all the mix designs for certain projects, and they change all the time. But some designs want the dust to fill the voids between the stones. So specifically, I can't give you one, but there's 7.
So there's 7 different types of aggregate that you will have coming onto the site.
Yes, different sizes.
Will you keep unwashed aggregate in one of the bins, or does that only come on if you need a special mix?
No, the aggregate's going to stay in the piles. It's only going to go into bids when the plant is operational.
Understood. In other words, the piles of aggregate, will you have a particular pile that's unwashed and know where it is?
Yeah, every product will be separated.
So where will the unwashed pile or piles be?
We haven't designated exactly where it will be, but it could be any one of these piles as long as we designate it doesn't contaminate another pile.
So are you only going to have one pile of unwashed? Is that-
Yes, I would, yes.
And you said the usual season for asphalt plants is from March to December, correct?
It's very weather sensitive.
How's it been this year?
It's been unseasonably warm.
Has your asphalt plant supplier shut down at all this year?
We don't own an asphalt plant in New Jersey.
Correct. Let's put it this way, the asphalt plants that you're buying from in New Jersey,
Majority of it shut down.
which one has remained open?
I believe one plant that I know, and that's not all, but one plant that I do business with, in Old Bridge, is remained open.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't at least one asphalt plant in the state of New Jersey remain open all season just in case of some sort of emergency asphalt?
I guess it depends on, I really don't know the answer.
Okay, how about your plant where is your plant right now in Pennsylvania?
Well, we operated 2 plants in Long Island.
Okay, have they stayed open all year or are they shut?
No, they shut down for me.
I guess the rest of my questions are really going to be to whatever expert they bring in on the air quality with the dust. I think that, do what the chairman has suggested. I think I'm done.
Very good. Anyone else?
Hi, that day, 32 Meadowview Drive, Lopatcong. Who are the owner or principals of Intercounty Paving? Who are you, the parent company?
189 Striker Road for Intercounty Paving?
Intercounty Paving, your company.
It's an irrelevant question, but I would also stipulate that we have submitted in accordance with the municipal land law required corporate ownership disclosures.
Could we reiterate what those are for the public? So we'll just answer the question.
Ma'am,
I'm sorry?
all that information is available at the town hall, at the clerk's office, the planning board clerk's office. That's as required by law. And that's available for anyone to review. It's in detail, it's by the statute.
Is that something that you all are familiar with as of now? Okay, thank you.
I'm Nicole Feenan, Greenwich Township, 117 Birch Lane. You had mentioned the increased trucks in and out of the site. How do you plan on dealing with the increased diesel emissions, which have been shown to have adverse health effects, especially on children?
Ma'am.
All the particulate matter
Ma'am.
from the emissions, yes?
You
You
don't
brought up the trucking.
Excuse me, you don't make statements as if you're an expert. You ask a question.
Okay, so how do you plan on dealing with all the diesel emissions from your trucks?
Our truck, all the requirements of the state of New Jersey DEP is for, in regards to emissions.
So none of the emissions are detrimental to anyone's health?
I'm not an emission expert at all.
Okay, so you're not an expert. Thank you.
My name is Richard Merker, 99 Macy Avenue, Lopatcong, New Jersey. You said there's going to be 6 people operating this plant?
6 people on site.
How many people operating the plant?
There's going to be a plant operator, a lab technician, a loader operator, there'll be a welder available, common labor will be around. We'll also have, that's per shift also, remember when I say 6, because if we run 24 hours a day, that would be double that number. Also, in the office building, we're going to have probably an office for sales for Pennsylvania and sales for New Jersey market. also the secretary, some accounts payable, accounts billing.
So my question still is, how many people are going to be running the asphalt plant?
There's 5.
5 people, thank you. Okay, and right now you're currently running, you said 2 plants in Long Island?
Operating 2 plants only, yes.
And your operators, what kind of requirements do they have to operate those plants?
I'm not aware of requirements that the operators in New York have to have.
So what is your job specifications for someone to come in and operate this plant?
So they're going to be qualified with experience to operate, prior experience operating plants in the state of New Jersey.
Who's qualifying them?
I'm going to qualify.
Okay. And out of these 2 plants that you operate, or all the other plants that you buy asphalt from, how many of these plants are within a half a mile from a grammar school?
I don't know the answer to the question.
What about the 2 that you do operate?
I operate, I'm in charge of all operations in New Jersey. I'm not really familiar with the lab of the community.
Okay. You said your company operates 2 plants in Long Island.
Yes,
Are they within a half a mile from a grammar school?
I do not know the answer to the question.
Is there an emissions permit for this plant?
Yes, there is.
Is there an emissions permit for the 2 plants you operate in Long Island?
There is.
Over the past years, how many exceedances to your permit has your company had?
Exceedance for 2.
And how recently have they?
I don't know the exact dates on them, although I do know that the plants that are operated, the plants aren't owned by Intercounty Bay. We are the operators over there. We started operating one plant in Hop in 2007. I don't know the exact month, but that's when we started operation. The plant out there is a 1958 bag house plant. It's been in operation continually from 1958 till now. I'm not aware of the specifics of the violations or from the DEC. I'm aware of them, I'm not aware of the specifics of them. Although every violation has been corrected, we take all violations serious. The technology is continually updated, and that plan is actually slated to come down, and a new state-of-the-art well plan is going up there by the summer.
Okay, so you don't know how far back the last exceedance was?
No, I don't
How
know.
recent it was?
Don't know the date.
And you're saying it was on older technology?
The plan was built in 1958.
Violation was, if I can let you know, it was 2010, I believe, it was April of 2010, it's a $50,000 fine.
Ma'am, no one can hear you.
Can't hear you. Hold on.
If you want me to wait, I'll wait.
Wait, so you can make your statement and everyone can hear it.
Okay, that's it, I'm done, thank you very much.
Hi, Juniper Langford, 32J Lane.
I'm not sure if you're saying that you're not going to answer these questions for us, but we do want some clarification on the way your company is structured. There are so many different names, even within New Jersey, for your company. Can you explain why you're set up that way, or how that works, if your company's parent companies?
I don't know the answer to that, other than there's different ownership in several companies, and several companies do different things.
And do the owners and maybe the board of directors, is there some overlapping of those members within those companies? The operation versus the owners?
Yes.
Okay, so yes, so they're overlapping, so they're very related companies. And also, so you can't tell us what other affiliates you have in New York, the names of those companies, because those also have several different names.
No, yes, I can tell you.
Okay, so
Does that operate that?
can you just tell me all the different names that your company operates under?
My company, Intercounty Paving, my company, one
Right.
operates
And
under
your
Intercounty
company's
Paving.
sister company?
No. Every
One at a time.
Intercounty Paving operates under Intercounty Paving.
Okay.
We have a public works certificate for Intercounty Paving. We're approved to do work as Intercounty Paving.
Right.
Okay. Other companies, as far as, what company, do you want to know New York or do you want to know New Jersey?
Well, I'm assuming that you're all affiliated with one another. I mean, we've got Intercounty Paving Associates, we've got Intercounty Asphalt Supply in Long Island, we have Intercounty Asphalt Supply in New Jersey, Suffolk Asphalt Supply,
No, Suffolk Asphalt Supply, we are not the owner of Suffolk Asphalt
This,
Supply.
but you operate their facility.
Yes.
Okay, so basically, I'll tell you why I'm asking the question. The concern is that obviously in business that occurs sometimes, you know, you get into an agreement with a company or town. You might enter an agreement with our town board here, and
then maybe sell that facility to one of your sister companies. And then that might nullify the specifics of the agreement that you entered into with our town. So I'm concerned about all these different name changes and the structure because of that.
I don't believe it nullifies any agreements made.
Well, I know that if you buy a business, you don't have to honor the contract.
Excuse me, it doesn't nullify anything.
I don't have a contract with the
It was
town.
a concern, so I just wanted to make sure that wasn't a possibility for us.
No,
We were just trying to clarify that, so.
they're not point-specific questions, I mean, of this witness.
Okay, well,
You're asking about-
I'm asking about the company, and I think that this is the only witness that, are there any other
There are half a
witnesses?
dozen different giant corporations.
Could I say something, Mr. Chairman? If this board were to approve this application, if this board would have conditions, the conditions would run with the land. If this was sold 100 times, it wouldn't have.
That's what I want.
It would just be inter-county paving, whoever bought it, I assume it would remain, but
Right.
whoever bought it would be bound by the conditions.
Okay, and I hope so, I just know that in certain contracts and certain business, and I'm not an expert, but that is a way to get at that.
Yeah, that's
Why it needs to
the,
be clarified.
yeah, that's the law as far as home negotiating.
Okay, I
I
understand.
need the attorney.
Um,
Okay, thank you.
Now, can you just give us an idea, how long have you worked for this entire family?
18 years.
18 years, okay. And we've already established that we do have affiliates in New York. And you don't directly oversee any of the New York operations?
No.
Okay, but you are aware that those facilities have been cited by the NYDEC on a couple of occasions for non-compliance?
Right, yes.
Okay, but you're not aware of what any of those violations were?
Not the specific details other than air.
I can tell you that in 2007, you were cited and fined $60,000 for violation of Articles 19 and 71, and also Part 211 of Title VI.
If you already know the answers, why are you asking the question?
Okay, well, I thought that the room would need some clarification on what those citations were. And I know that there was another citation in 2010, but this leads me to my question because around the same time, the DEC directed your organization or your Hawthorne plant to raise the smokestack height from 33 feet where it is existing to 120 feet because of resident complaints in that area. And this was, I think this directive was put out in July of 2010 to be completed by November of 2010. And I spoke to the town of Islip last week, and that project has not been completed. So I'm just wondering why.
Well, I don't know the exact specifics of it. However, as I stated before, that plan is slated to come down, a new plan, which the town is aware of.
Right.
And we are putting a state-of-the-art plan up there. And I'm going to guess, from my experience with asphalt plants, that 33-foot stack couldn't be raised and structurally sound. And it may have violated some height
Oh,
ordinance in the
no,
town.
the permit was approved by.
No. The structural engineering of that stack could not be raised on the same unit to 120 feet.
Okay, well, my point is that if you're directed to do something by a state agency, I'm just curious as to how you.
We have been operating, from what I understand, without any violations over there in 2011.
In 2011. you
So
had-
the state agency is well aware of the situation with the plan. The plan has been modified and other things have been put in place.
So your explanation as to why that work hasn't been done to offer those residents some relief, because I'm not sure if you're aware, but residents around that facility have, joined forces in opposition to the plant because I know the plant is.
And you ask questions, don't make statements.
Okay, very good. I'll do my best. Now, let's see. Just out of curiosity, are you aware that those residents in that area have organized themselves against?
No.
Ma'am, again, you're making statements.
I want to know if the community is out there. Is he going to know if we're ever upset?
What relevance does it have to this application?
It has, it's huge relevance. This is their track record for their outreach to the communities they already existed. This is the best way we can tell what's going to happen when they come here. I realize the plant will be significantly different, and I appreciate that. But the point is, if there are issues and residents are suffering, and state agencies step in to ask for specific directives to be completed to give those residents some relief. I want to know, why are they not completed? And I think that
Again, the plan is coming down. And we can't,
but that was 2 years ago, and it hasn't been done yet.
and we are, excuse me, and we are the operator. We don't own the equipment now.
Right, but your companies are all related.
No, we're not related with something.
I have a permit application here for Suffolk Asphalt Supply for an update that you did in 2008, and it clearly linked.
It doesn't link anything. It says that they own the plant, and
Right.
together we're operating the plant.
And then we go to the website
we
for-
have a lease agreement to operate the plant in Suffolk
But it's
Asphalt.
not one of your family companies?
No, it's not one of our family- no,
Company, it's
no,
not
no.
involved with you guys at all?
Not at all.
It's because, I mean, you clearly, every time you go to a website, you're directed.
I can answer it 3 different ways, but the same answers would be not at all.
Okay, are you aware of the resident opposition to your plan out there? That was my question that you answered.
Directly, no.
You've never heard of that?
No.
Okay, then I assume you're not aware of the website that they've designed, thefumesarkillingus.com?
No, I have not heard of it.
It's worth checking out, I think you should. Have any of your facilities, New York, New Jersey, ever been shut down temporarily, permanently, for any reason?
Not that I'm aware of.
I'm just curious. Now, can you explain to me, and I mean this genuinely, based on your track record dealing with offering relief to residents in other areas, why should we trust that if an issue arises where we need some relief for any reason whatsoever, that you're going to rise to the occasion to expedite what's needed?
We're a very reputable company. We do $200 million a year in construction. We have standard operating procedures, and any violation anywhere with any operation is taken very seriously.
But yet, I
And
have all
corrected
these
immediately.
residents who are plainly being disregarded and who are suffering.
I can't answer that.
Let him answer the question.
I'm just curious because I was reading through the testimony from the first application hearing when this was actually approved, and I'm not sure if it was yourself or it was another witness who was speaking on behalf of the plant. But the same line of questioning was asked, and I'm just curious. When they were asked if there were any problems with their affiliates in New York and had any environmental agencies come in, the answer that was given from the witness, and you can tell me if this was yourself or not, to answer your question, the EPA came once, many, many years ago, but it was a non-factor. Does that sound like
That wasn't me.
a fair answer?
I didn't testify to that.
Okay, so somebody a representative from your company did. That doesn't match the testimony you're giving us now at all. So which one, do you feel that that was a false statement? Given,
It appears obvious to be a false statement.
Right.
You just asked me if I was aware of fines, and I answered yes.
right, well, because, I can read to you exactly the way the question was posed, and it said, do you have a problem? Have you ever been charged with environmental problems over there? Like, has the EPA ever come in and charged you with something? Let's say you're doing something wrong or air pollution?
The reason I object, I think you can cross-examine a witness as to a statement he or she has made, but I'm not sure it's proper to cross-examine this witness as to a statement someone else made, because he wasn't the witness who...
I just want to know if he
Let
thought
me
it was
just
accurate.
Will you let please?
Yeah, and these weren't statements he made, and she can ask him whatever questions she wants that are relevant, but not necessarily as to what someone else said.
That's correct.
Yeah, you're cross-examining as to another person's testimony.
Okay, well, I feel that based on what you said today, this clarification you're giving us lets us know that that's false testimony. Maybe I asked the board this, how are you expected to make an agreement of that kind based on false testimony? Doesn't that completely nullify your first
We don't know that it's false testimony. You're making that.
Yes,
You're
well, you
making
just gave us the true
that.
testimony now.
I just testified to what I know.
So I don't understand what the other representative was doing here, if they didn't know anything, but okay. All good and fine, those points have all been made. I do feel that false statements were given under oath in the last hearing, and I think that that issue should be addressed.
Do you have proof of that?
I have the... It is a false statement. So I guess that's something, as far as I'm concerned, to be explored very thoroughly later, because I think that, I don't think our township can be expected to enter into a legally binding contract based on false testimony.
Again, are you having a question, or are you making?
Yes, I have one more question. Are you aware that studies have shown a reduction in home values resulting from an addition of an asphalt plant?
No, I'm
And you've
not
never
aware
had
of
any
that.
complaints from that? Or you wouldn't know, because you don't really know the New York.
I'm not a real estate agent.
Right. Well, I mean, usually when you're in business.
I really don't analyze the house values.
Right. Well,
You don't live
so,
by one.
Yeah, you live by one? Where?
Yeah, not too far away.
Hey! Stop right where you are. I'll have you removed if you come any further.
Do me a favor, have you removed.
Good, please be seated.
all right, 115. Okay, well, my last question, and then I'll sit down and I'll leave you alone. Can you offer us any guarantee that our home values are not at risk? All I want.
Again, I'm not a home expert, no, I can't.
Before I start my line of questioning here, which is in regards to the trucks coming out of your facility, are you qualified to answer questions regarding trucks coming out of your facility?
I'm not a traffic engineer, although I can answer pretty much operational
specific
components of the
trucks,
project.
yeah. So before I ask those questions, and I promise I won't take too long, I just want to make a quick comment.
No comments, please
Oh,
ask
okay.
the question.
Oh, you're right. Okay, so I will ask a question. Mr. Menon, is that your name? Okay, Mr. Menon, you mentioned earlier when I was asking questions that I was being subversive, and I wanted to just assure you that I'm not being subversive, and assure the townspeople that I'm not being subversive, and also respectfully assure the board that I'm not being subversive. So I would like to ask that as I continue to ask questions and other people continue to ask questions, if you could refrain from making derogatory comments, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Ma'am,
so-
he has the right to act as an attorney for the applicant.
I'm sorry?
Do you understand that?
Who's talking to me?
I'm talking to you.
Say that again,
He
please.
has the right to protect his client and ask questions on their behalf or to object to questions.
Oh, I understand that. I
Do
just
you
asked him
understand
not
that?
to make
Do you
derogatory
understand it
comments.
clearly?
I
Do you understand that clearly?
I do, and, you know,
All right.
bullying tactics
You
don't
are
work.
here to ask questions.
Why did you come down here and sit with them?
Have the phone, please.
Bullying tactics don't work. I didn't hear what you said.
Excuse me?
I said bullying tactics don't work. I didn't hear what you said.
Excuse me?
Okay, I'm just going to continue with my question since you
All
can't
right,
hear me.
ma'am, I'm moving you out of order. Last thing you sit down.
Thank you.
My question is actually related to some of the other questions that you had. I would like to know how come every time someone on public makes a comment, they're told that they can't, but when anyone over here makes a comment, they're not gathered in. It's a fair question.
Question to me, not to the applicant.
Okay, it's a generalized question.
Your questions are ready to be directed to the applicant. I told you at the beginning of the meeting tonight that you will have an opportunity to voice all your concerns. You can make all your statements during the public portion. I cautioned you at the time that we had the presentation being made that you could ask specific questions.
It's just an issue of fairness.
It will be fair. You can, at the end of this.
It hasn't been so far. Thus far, it has not been fair.
It has to be fair? Is that your opinion?
I'm trying to maintain a level of decorum as have a lot of people.
But the protocol is that when a witness gets done testifying, you have a right to ask him questions about what he testified to. That's it. There will be public comment later if you wish to make that. If you wish to go under a vote, you can make public comment.
That's fine, okay,
Thank you.
Hi, Marla Endick, 10 Byron Drive, Phillipsburg, New Jersey. E-N, E like David, I-C-K. Hi, okay. So, you had mentioned earlier in testimony, and my questions will be regarding the number of trucks. Can you confirm, I believe we said 50 to 150 trucks?
Trips.
Average?
Trips.
Truck trips?
Truck trips. The average was determined over our estimated production in the operating season, when we start operating. And we broke that down into number of days we feel would be allowable for work, and the amount of volume we feel the area could do.
Okay, because I believe there's been prior testimony talking about up to 300 truck trips. So are we saying that's no longer the number? Now it's going to be 150 maximum?
You know, there's a traffic engineer here that could better describe.
Okay, so
the
the traffic
report.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought the traffic engineer was talking about flow traffic. He will know how many trucks?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Can I ask you about peak times of travel regarding the trucks?
Yes.
When will be those peak times of travel? When do you expect the most trucks to be coming?
Well, I'm going to give you a general idea. The majority of construction work, paving work, is done when off of the peak hours of a normal rush hour. They change by location, by roads, and they're governed usually by the owners of the road. New Jersey DOT, town ordinances, the parkways, the turnpikes, different facility owners. So the peak times for a general statement are not the peak times of the rush hours on either in the morning or evening.
Okay, can you tell me what those peak hours would be?
They vary depending on a specific roadway, but the AM peak hours, I would imagine, again, I'm not a traffic engineer, would be from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m.
Okay.
And the peak hours on the evening, I'm going to speculate again, 4 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Okay, so just to confirm, I understood what you said. I believe you said the morning peak hours are between the hours of 6 and 7 a.m.?
Again, I am guessing, but
Okay, you're guessing. So, have you all thought about when buses are traveling to schools for drop-offs in those vicinities, that those are the peak hours for our bus drop-offs and pickups as well?
I personally have not.
Okay.
Traffic engineer, maybe.
Okay, good, so I'll save that question for traffic engineer. Great, okay. Can you confirm the number that you gave us, 50 to 150 truck trips? What are those trucks specifically doing when we're talking about those trucks?
They're going to be either bringing in raw materials, stone and sand,
Okay.
or they're going to be taking out the finished product, asphalt.
Okay, so can you confirm whether or not that number includes the number of trucks bringing in recycled asphalt, or are those additional trucks to that number?
No, the numbers are good, in and out, yes.
Okay, so again, I'm just going to ask, so that number, 50 to 150, would include the following. Does it include trucks coming in to pick up asphalt for asphalt orders? Number 2, trucks coming in to drop off recycled asphalt. And number 3, any deliveries or trucks that you need to bring in raw materials on a daily basis?
Yes.
Okay, so that number is inclusive of all those trucks. Good. Okay, thank you. Can you share with us the allowable hours of operation and how many days a week this will take place for, number 1, the manufacturing of the asphalt?
The hours of operation are 24 hours.
24 hours to manufacture the asphalt.
No, the plant will run at a capacity of 300 tons an hour.
Okay, so again, maybe you're not being clear. What are going to be your hours during the course of a 24-hour period that plant will be up and running and manufacturing asphalt?
Depends on the project and the call for the demand and stipulations of a specific project that we would be supplying, which we don't have any yet because we're not operational.
Is it possible that your plant could be operating 24 hours a day, manufacturing asphalt?
The plant is allowed to operate 24
And
hours.
how many days a week would that be permissible?
I believe it's 7 days a week we operate.
And
By
what is-
order.
And what is your plan? Is your
My
plan?
plan is to supply the jobs as they call, under the hours that they call to be supplied.
Okay, so we've established that it could be 24 hours a day to manufacture. Okay, let's talk now about trucks arriving to pick up asphalt orders. What hours do you expect that traffic to be taking place? Is that also possibly up to 24 hours a day to have trucks coming out and pick up orders?
I imagine it could be, yes. Again, they would be under the same stipulation if the project called for it and the order was big enough for us to open up.
And
We would open for them.
And 7 days a week?
If the project called for it, could be.
Okay, because, I don't know, I could have heard this wrong. I thought earlier tonight you heard something about not 7 days a week, but, okay, well, I'll look back at my notes. How about, we talked about manufacturing of asphalt, we talked about trucks coming in pickup orders. What about recycling of asphalt? At what hours will that actual procedure be taking place and how many days a week?
They'll be taking place in accordance with the ordinance with regard to recycling. I believe the ordinance number, I don't know if you don't remember it, but I did review it. Basically, it's Monday through Friday, I think day of the week, hours of operation from 7 a.m. to 6, and Saturday, I believe, 7 a.m. to 3:30, and no recycling on Sunday.
Oh, good, okay, great. So Saturday, 7 in the morning, you recycle asphalt, okay. How about sound? Can you describe for the public what people would be hearing at what times throughout the day and night, at what sound levels and what distances from the plant, number one, for the manufacturing of asphalt? Would we hear anything in regard to that?
The sound of operation will be in accordance with the state guidelines, regardless of the sound decibels at the property line.
Do we know what that decibel level would be? Do we know, could you describe what that might sound like?
Well, I think the town, or I think the state ordinance is, and again, I don't know exactly what I think it is. It's 65 decibels at the property line. I do understand that a normal conversation in a household will run between 50 to 60 decibels.
Okay, so it'd just be like people having a conversation. Okay. How about trucks arriving to pick up asphalt orders? Do we know what kind of sound that could generate? Because we've already established it could be 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So how about sound? What would that sound like? How far away do you think that sound would travel and what decibels?
Again, I'm not an expert on it, but it would sound like a truck.
It would sound like a truck. Okay. How about the recycling of asphalt? I don't know. I've never heard asphalt recycled. I don't know what that sounds like, but could you describe, again, the same thing? What will we be hearing? At what sound level and at what distance would that sound carry?
You won't be hearing any sound in violation of state ordinances at the property line, and recycling of the asphalt, just to point out to make you aware, it's the same as putting the stone into the drum of the manufacturing plant.
I've never heard that before, so.
Okay, well.
Can you describe that for me?
Yeah, the material is going to go into a drum, and it's going to get mixed, and there's going to be oil added to the material, which is like the glue of the material. And it's going to, once it's mixed, it's going to go over the conveyor. The recycling part of the asphalt, instead of putting stone into the mix, you're going to put asphalt, previously ground up asphalt, back into the mix in lieu of stone.
So if I asked you, nearby residents, do you think they'll be hearing anything when all this is happening 24/7? I know not the recycling, because we're not going to do that on Sunday, but the other times, what will those residents be? Do you think they'll be able to hear that?
You know, again, I'm not a sound expert. All I know is operation will be compliance with noise ordinances in place.
Okay, so have you all done a sound study at all?
I haven't personally done a sound study.
Has your company, as part of this
The
application?
manufacturer of a piece of equipment do sound studies on their equipment. I don't know the specific numbers, although I do know that it will be in compliance again with all the ordinances at the property line. I believe it's 65 decibels.
So would it not be appropriate then, as part of an application for an asphalt plant to build within a town, to do a sound study so that the residents would have privy to that information of what that would sound like?
I'm going to give you my opinion, is that as long as it meets the ordinance at the property as governed, I don't believe a sound study would be necessary. Again, I'm not aware of it, and we did not do it.
So I would respectfully request that the planning board please note that we would like to request a sound study to be done based on all those questions previously asked. Thank you.
I'm Bruce Johnson. I live at 930 Mountain View Road, Bethlehem Township, New Jersey. I heard just a bit ago that the plant proposed here is a flagship plant. I know you didn't say that, but can you give me some idea what might have been meant by flagship plant?
I can't speculate why it was said, but the plant is the first plant that we have in New Jersey. Okay? We are putting a lot of effort into design, and putting in modern equipment on site, spending a lot of money on landscape and buildings. So I would imagine again that that's why it's a state of the art. Flagship.
As an operator of a plant, what defines success for you and for your company?
I don't understand the question.
Is the making of money an important part of producing?
And any business is very important to make money, otherwise we're not doing it for fun.
I agree. So now, I just have a question about that very thing. We have 6, or is it 5 employees on the plant?
There's going to be other employees involved.
Oh, there will? Okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Okay, how many are going to be employed at any particular time?
We haven't completed the whole staff list yet, but right now we figure we're going to have 5 on site per shift while the plant is operating. So just to operate and maintenance the plant. Above that, we're going to need office people. We're going to need somebody to answer the phone. We're going to need somebody to send the bills out. We're going to need somebody to pay our vendors. And we're going to need somebody to sell our material to private customers. We're feeling right now we're probably going to employ 2 salesmen, one for the Pennsylvania market and one for the New Jersey market.
So it sounds like about maybe 10 or so people, but I'm just...
I think probably 12 to 15 would be more accurate.
Okay. We have an office that is set up for 22 people, according to testimony we just heard. So that difference, well, it's set up for 22 only in the respect, as the testimony was given, that it had enough square foot to justify an occupation of 22 people in the office. So I'm just wondering, are you planning then to have rather large meetings of potential clients in this flagship office? Is this part of, I mean, are you trying to really have a fair amount of people attend a meeting at any one time to more or less show up the plant to advertise what you can do?
We're building the building so it's capable of having meetings, yes.
Right, okay. I just was curious about that. So that would be a meeting of quite a number of people, but we don't know how many.
I don't know how many ask the question.
Do you know how many?
No.
Okay. Let me then ask another question here. You indicated in your testimony that your peak plant operation would not coincide with peak traffic times, most likely.
Most likely.
When do you think your peak operating time will be for your plant? Forget about outside traffic influences. When would you normally say a high time for production?
It would vary by the project, but for the majority on interstate projects, it's night. Town projects, again, every town has their own ordinance. Some are 7 to 3:30, some are 8 to 5, 9 to 5. So it would depend on the project.
Okay. For daytime projects, if you have a daytime project of a road, when would be your higher? Would it be in the middle of the day, or if you're not sure?
I would want it to start around 7 a.m.
Right.
But again, I'd be governed by whoever on the road.
You testified that you probably wouldn't have high production during normal high traffic.
Most likely you would not. From my experience in the paving industry, most of the higher production work is done off-peak hours.
Okay. All right. That's it. Thank you.
This will be the last witness for this evening. We're approaching the 11 o'clock hour. As I stated earlier, we were going to stop taking testimony at 11 o'clock. We'll adjourn. And we'll reconvene here tomorrow night, 7 p.m. at the school.
This will be quick. I'll let you get another one in and be dry. Eric Johnson, I still live at 361 Stonehenge. You said you were very familiar with Ordinance 24377.7. You said you will comply with the hours of operation. Do we are on the same page? The hours of operation are 24/7. So obviously you will comply with it.
The orders I was referring to was the orders for recycling.
Recycling
I think
ordinance.
more importantly, yeah, recycling. And I don't think the number you said was correct.
But that's what was said before. So
What was the number?
243-77.7.
Yeah, this is the recycling ordinance.
Okay, recycling. We kind of touched on this before. When is the peak hour of traffic volume, both AM and PM? Not a range. When is the peak volume?
Well, it's always a range.
No, but the peak is one specific hour. What is the maximum hour?
Listen, I am not a traffic engineer, and we're going to have testimony against the
Okay,
peak and
then-
non-peak hours. And how
I'm just-
it's categorized.
Understood.
Can I finish the answer to the question?
Yes, I was just referring to your expert testimony of operations will not affect peak traffic volumes. That was all. It seems to conflict with your statement there. Is there going to be any safety inspections performed on the vehicles prior to leaving the plant, making sure they put the covers on them and stuff falling off of them and stuff?
Those are all regulated by the state of New Jersey. All the safety precautions, the checks on trucks. Our trucks are no different than anybody else's trucks. The trucks that come out of all operations in the industrial zone, all the safety inspections required by law will be performed.
Okay, and yeah, you would do that yourself on site. What is your truck height?
Sorry, you're in here.
Your truck height, what is your truck height? Or a typical truck height?
I believe they're about, again, I'm guessing, at that 11 feet.
Okay, thank you.
Point of order, do you know when, I know you said this hearing is going to be continued tomorrow night. If it's not done tomorrow night, do you know when the next date is? Because, I don't know about anyone else, but I have to be at another meeting tomorrow night. The notice said tonight, it didn't say that you were going to do special meetings the following day.
I beg to differ with you. There was a notice publicly published in the Express Times, the newspaper is required.
For tomorrow, it's saying for tomorrow night?
Saying for tomorrow night, 7 p.m. here.
I asked the applicant's attorney, he didn't know either.
Yeah.
I made that legal notice.
Well, that's an Oprah notice. Yeah, that's an Oprah notice. So with the notice of the applicant, okay. In any event, assuming that it doesn't finish tomorrow, do you know when your next hearing date is going to be then?
No.
Okay, and you guys want to go tomorrow, or?
We're happy to proceed tomorrow, and if you'd like to establish the next date if we need it, to convenience those here, that's fine. If you want to do that tomorrow, when we're all together tomorrow, that's fine too.
I would hope that the board would consider not doing it tomorrow, just to let us plan out our stuff, because I planned tonight, I didn't plan tomorrow.
That's not my fault.
Well, actually, the notice came from the board, so it kind of is, it's not the applicant's fault.
Notice was published in the
It
normal.
wasn't an MLUL notice, it was an Oprah notice, I understand that.
I do, because of the fact we have experts here that.
Well, put it this way, can I ask two more questions of this witness, then if I can't be here tomorrow, can I ask them right now?
Go ahead.
Do you have any planned protocol for cleaning up after any Do you have any planned protocol for cleaning up after any droppings that might come off the trucks from when they leave your facility till they get to Interstate 78?
The truck loads are going to be tarps. There's going to be no droppings coming off of our trucks when they leave. They're not going to be able to load them.
But assume for argument's sake that somehow, tell you what, it's more likely product coming in. If there's any product coming in that falls off the truck, do you have any planned protocols for cleaning up the roads from that?
I don't have any planned protocols. I mean,
That would be the township's problem if that happened? Or would you?
It would be the operator of the vehicle itself. If it was our vehicle, they would ultimately, I would imagine, legally be responsible for cleaning up the road.
Would the applicant be willing to some sort of condition, just making sure that the things are cleaned up, that the truck operator didn't?
You going to support the application, John, in the event there's a protocol?
Put it this way.
You know, wait, it's easy to say, would you do this and this and this? but-
Well, quite frankly, Dan, if you say yes enough, maybe we will. But that's what we're trying to find out, what the parameters are.
That's really for the client, since,
Well, isn't it the client?
no, obviously, it's not us to make.
I'm not asking.
Excuse me, I think it'd be very hard to determine if the material came off my truck. There's a lot of trucks going these are public roads. There's a lot of other operations in here. So yes, I'd be against making this stipulation that I'm going to clean up stone on Interstate 78 or 22 because now when I open an asphalt clean, it came off of my truck.
Okay, so
If
that's
it
my
came off my
first
truck, I would
question.
clean it up.
The second question is, I think I now understand the response to to your comment before that 150 trucks at peak operation versus an average of 50. What you're saying, correct me if I'm wrong, is that your average through the year is 50 trucks per day?
I'm saying the only way to determine average is put sales numbers of the plant, and I'm going to assume that we're going to produce a business plan. Put a business plan
So if
together.
you
I
spread-
don't have any work on the books because the plant's not up, it's not operating.
But you know how much paving you've done this past year?
I do, but it changes every year because you don't pave in the same spot. If I pave the school, I might not pave the school for 20 years, so I pave the school down the road, it's different material.
Let's go with 2011. How many trucks did your paving business generate full of asphalt?
I don't have the exact answer for intercounty paving.
How do you get a 50
But we
trucks per day average?
We assume that the plants, again, will produce about 150,000 tons in a year. That was our business plan. And we backed it for that, 25 tons a truck.
All I'm asking is, you took the 150 tons and you divided it by how many days to get to 50 trucks?
And we realized that some jobs, from experience, on interstates, you could do more volume on the job, if we were able to acquire that job.
I just want to know, how did you come up with the figure, the average 50 trucks per day? Did you guess?
No, we didn't guess. We put a business plan together based on ton supply.
So,
Average
right, you had the tons of supply, you divided it by what?
20, 25 tons per truckload.
Okay, so you divided by how many days then of operation?
I believe the number, when the calculation was done, was roughly 200 days of operation.
Okay, so that's how you got the 50 trucks per day average through the year. And you also testified 150 days, 150 trucks at peaks. So when is your peak season? Or when is, because that's when you'd have 150 trucks per day, correct, during your peak season?
Not during the season, if the project called for, if the project was big enough, that would be the peak operation of the plant. If there was a big wall being paved in there, as an example, and it was a big project and it had 20,000 tons, then we'd run, that would be a peak operation of the plant. If we were paving a driveway, there might be one truck coming out of the plant.
So what your testimony is then, if, for example, using your example, if you were paving a shopping center, yes, and they wanted it done during the day, and it was a huge shopping center, you could run 150 trucks for that day during daylight hours, but if you were paving an interstate like 287, and they wanted it at night, with a big quantity, you could be running 150 trucks at peak that night. That's what you're saying?
Yes, 150 truck trips, not trucks.
We will reconvene here tomorrow at 7 p.m. Tomorrow evening. Do you agree to that?
Yes, and no new notice required.
No notice required.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, motion to adjourn.